Let me give a warm hello and welcome. Thank you so much for taking a little time out of your busy day to listen and talk about self care, specifically self care during stressful times. My name is Shannon Karl. It's my honor to share this information with each of you today, and I hope that you leave with a broader view of holistic self care and also maybe some ideas of how you can implement these techniques for yourself and your loved ones too. I'm a professor in the Department of Counseling with the College of Psychology at NSU. I'm just finishing 19 years of teaching in our counseling programs, and it's just been an honor for me to be a shark and to work in the mental health profession. I'm also a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida and an approved clinical supervisor. With that being said, let's talk a little bit about self care, why it's important in different ways we can conceptualize. This presentation was first kind of conceptualized and developed during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. I was working with a group of graduating clinical mental health counseling interns, and it was a very stressful time. And so we put together different elements of self care, and we're using it for community education and engagement. And so it's my honor to continue sharing this information today. All right, let's talk a little bit about kind of the tripartite connection between the mind, the body, and the spirit. Those represent different elements of self care that we should attend to. And you can see balance in life, positivity, health, good mindset, relationships, optimism, peace, quality of life are all things that can result from enhanced self care for ourselves and for our loved ones. And quite frankly, elements of self care shouldn't just be when the work week is done or when the semester wraps up, right? Or when I have the opportunity. It should really be incorporated into our lives daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. So small individual pieces of self care add up to overall wellness. Talking specifically about physical self care for just a minute. I wanted to highlight the importance of developing a healthy sleep routine, also called sleep hygiene. Good sleep, regular sleep, enough sleep. How many of us get that on a regular basis? Might be a goal nearly ubiquitously, but having good sleep hygiene is something that impacts how we feel, mind, body, and spirit. And so, sleep hygiene is a really important element of self care. Aiming for a healthy diet and nutrition, taking daily steps and whatever that might be for each of you. I always like to mention that when we talk about self care and we talk about making changes with physical activity, with sleep, with nutrition, with our mental health as well, that it can be really important to consult with your healthcare professional just to make sure that any plan that you're developing is safe and the best fit for you. So daily steps, whatever those goals are, is something that can really help us improve our overall quality of life, not just our physical health. Stretching, gentle stretching, yoga, Pilates. There are different types of opportunities for people across the ability spectrum as far as flexibility and physical abilities. Staying hydrated. I know that sounds so simple, right, and rudimentary, but I do think it's something that many of us overlook, especially during the busyness, perhaps, of our daily lives or the work week. Making sure to spend a little time in nature, breathing the fresh air. Hopefully, it's beautiful weather wherever you're joining us from. And so, if you have the opportunity to get out, even just for 5 minutes, take some deep breaths and really enjoy the beauty that we have outside. Movement throughout all of our recorded history and before, I would posit, people have moved to music, dance, rhythm. That's something that is healthy and healing for our bodies and our minds and our spirits as well. And then to talk just a little bit more about exercise, specifically, we know that there's an abundance of research on the positive benefits of moving the body, staying active. Again, always make sure that you've checked with a healthcare provider if exercise is new or you're making any changes. But the benefits of exercise include reducing stress. The symptoms of physical stress, if you think about anxious symptomology, right? Feeling on edge, not being able to relax, maybe some hyper arousal. Those types of things can be mitigated through the benefits of regular exercise. It can also mitigate burnout. And these are stressful times. It seems like the times just continue to be stressful. And so I think a lot of us balance many different roles and life tasks, and it can help us stay fresh and avoid burnout in that regard. Improves our concentration and memory, goes back to improving sleep, right? And the importance of sleep hygiene, can raise our energy levels and increase our libido, helps us produce serotonin as well. So there are myriad benefits to exercise that really emphasize the mental health aspects as well as physical health. Wanted to talk for just a minute about nutritional self-care and just highlighting kind of three general areas. And of course, there's registered dietitians and nutritionists who have an abundance of expertise in this area. So I just wanted to kind of point out that there's several different ways related to the environment that we can nurture ourselves nutritionally as well. The main one being when you can, because we don't want our self-care to add stress, right? And think, oh my gosh, I don't have the most relaxing environment for my dinner meal this evening. When you can, and making plans for that can really help foster physical relaxation and a sense of positivity around mealtime. A lot of times for individuals that can include coming together with family and friends, so incorporating that aspect as well. Having a balance, right? Overall variety and balance with our nutrition is part of self care. We fuel our bodies with our food, and that helps keep us going as well. So, making sure that we're being mindful of variety and balance and nutritiousness with our food intake. And then the last point I wanted to make in this regard is related to when you can take a little time to enjoy the process of having a meal. If you like to cook, that includes preparing a meal, right? If you enjoy time with family, catching up, then that is included as well. And really, for us to get out of the mindset that eating is just another item on the to-do list, just something to check off to get through the day. If we can take some time and have some gratitude around our sustenance and the ability to kind of pause and reflect and feed our bodies and also hopefully relax our minds. Transitioning just a bit to emotional and mental self care. Number one, Schedule self-care time. Schedule me time into your calendar. My guess is that if we were able to have individual conversations with each of you, you'd be able to tell me, well, you have work obligations in your calendar. You may have family obligations in your calendar, social obligations, things of that nature, health appointments. But what we often neglect is scheduling time for ourselves into the calendar as well. And by doing that, that reserves that space, that carves out that space for self care. And sometimes when life is at its busiest, the holidays are coming for many of us, and it will get maybe a little bit more hectic or a little bit more stressful. Sometimes it's 5 minute self care, right? Or 10-minute self care. I would love for everybody to be able to have a good chunk, at least an hour of self care every day. But we also do have to balance that with some of the realities of our responsibilities and obligations. So even if it's 5 minute self care, right? 5 minutes is a lot better than 0 minutes. It's also really helpful for us to be able to identify the triggers or warning signs that we need self care. Are we having more difficulty sleeping? Do we find ourselves being a little bit more short tempered or irritable? So, being able to have an early awareness of those and then implement our self care strategies can really alleviate and mitigate a lot of additional stress. Rewarding ourselves for working hard, for reaching goals, right? So making sure that when we look at self-care, we've got right a little bit daily, hopefully, weekly, monthly, and yearly. So have something specifically that you may be looking forward to as a reward for hard work that is especially meaningful self-care for you. Listening to music, reading, any other activities that allow you to relax and take your mind off of maybe the worries that go through our minds on a daily basis. One thing personally that I've always loved is to read all kinds of books. And I found that at some points I get too busy to really be able to make the time to read a novel, for instance. So, other things that I can do is read a short story, read a magazine, read something that's enlightening or uplifting. And that allows me to feed the self-care within a limited time frame. So try and think out of the box if you are looking at different ways to enhance your self-care. Here's this next one's really important. Unplug from technology as much as you can, whenever you can. And that might be just 30 minutes for a meal. It could be the last hour or two before you go to bed. We know with sleep research, this is something that helps relax the mind and prepare the body for rest. So making sure to be mindful about unplugging from technology can be really important. For some of us, having clutter makes us feel stressed, right? And if you're one of those people, then reserving a little bit of time to declutter, to have an environment where you can take a deep breath and be like, yes, this feels good. It feels good to be physically and mentally in this space. If you can, when you can, do something spontaneous. And it can be as simple as going outside for a quick walk before the lunch hour is done. And then also consider any hobbies that you may have enjoyed in the past, but haven't made time for, been able to make time for currently. See if that might be of interest as far as a passion to resume or possibly engaging in a new hobby as well. Dr. Anna Freud likened hobbies to being halfway between work and play and can, I think, be very satisfying for us and enhance our self care. talking for just a minute about spiritual self care. We opened up this conversation looking at the interconnectedness of the mind and the body and the spirit. So we want to make sure that we're feeding our spiritual self as well, and that includes focusing on our goals, our values, and our beliefs. It can include journaling, reading inspirational stories, being open to new experiences, looking at what is good in ourselves and also in others. Sometimes if we're feeling particularly stressed, it's easy to have filters on that make everything look maybe a little bit worse than it needs to be. So at some point, actively looking for what are we doing that's good? What are we doing that's right for ourselves and the others in our lives? Practicing mindfulness meditation. And I've got a slide coming up next about this, and we'll talk a little bit more. But the research is very clear that meditation and prayer as well, prayer or focus on your God or your higher power, these activities cause our stress hormones to reduce, can be very relaxing and induce feelings of peace and connection and wholeness within us. So I definitely would encourage everyone to kind of take a look at our spiritual selves and how we're nurturing that, and in what ways does nurturing that fit best with you and your values and your beliefs. With relaxation and meditation, there are a number of techniques and trainings that can benefit not just mental health professionals, but everybody in our communities. And some of these incorporate becoming aware of our stressors and triggers and letting them go. We had talked about mindfulness meditation, which is really a very natural way of kind of calming down and relaxing our central nervous system. And it can be as simple as focusing on breathing in a quiet environment for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes if you have it. One technique that I've utilized in clinical work and in supervision for a number of years is diaphragmatic breathing, also simply called belly breathing, which is an easy and effective relaxation technique. And if you haven't utilized this or tried this recently, I would definitely encourage taking a few moments. And essentially, it's as simple as putting your hand on your belly and taking the deepest breath in that you can, and then holding it for a few seconds, and then slowly exhale. I like to say, pretend you're blowing bubbles through a wand. I'm going to do this 2 more times just so we can get the feel. Ready? Bubbles through the wand. And last time. And bubbles through the wand. The physical act of breathing in this way forces our bodies to slow down. It relaxes our central nervous system and helps us feel calmer. And the beautiful thing about this is it can be done anywhere, anytime, and we can empower others as well for the diaphragmatic breathing. So I definitely encourage it. All right. I wanted to make sure to have a slide focused on creativity with mindfulness, with our self care, because, one of the beautiful things about who we are is we all have different passions and interests and things that rejuvenate us and are defined for us as self care. So, if any of these resonate with you, it may be something to consider a little bit further. Drawing. creating through projects, multimedia, do-it-yourself projects. Cooking for some people can be incredibly beneficial on a number of different levels. And I'm thinking right now of an alumna who we worked with and has been fantastic, who had a dream of starting a private practice where she did cooking, had a kitchen as part of her practice and did cooking with her clients. I also have had experience with in-home counseling sessions where we have baked cookies together, and really just that act of providing, making something and sharing quality time when you can. Decorating, painting, and of course, writing. And that goes back to the idea of journaling, storytelling. If this is something that resonates with you, it is a self-care habit that is very fruitful and can be easy to incorporate into daily life. Maybe one of my favorite slides for this presentation is talking just for a minute about boundaries and self-care, right? So we've talked about all different things we can do to relax and to help add positivity and self-actualization to our lives. One of the things, especially when times are particularly busy or stressful, one of the most important things we can do is be aware of our boundaries, which are the limits and the rules that we have for ourself, our time, our energy, our interactions with relationships, right? So it's knowing ourselves and being comfortable enough to know what's important, know when we may need some extra self-care or extra time to recharge. And saying no can be even more powerful than saying yes as far as self-care. There are several different ways to set boundaries. We have just a little step-by-step plan here, thinking ahead about a situation where you might want to set a personal boundary. I'm thinking about the holidays coming up, and sometimes, especially with larger or blended families with community engagement, there can be so many activities, and we want to do them all, but it would come at the expense of our self-care. So planning ahead, think about what you might want to respectfully say no to, and how you would say it. Of course, be respectful and kind. I statements. I would really love to come to your holiday party. Um, I am dealing with a lot of obligations right now, and I'm sorry I won't be able to make it, but I'd love to get together sometime soon, and then maybe have a follow-up discussion about when that would be. So using those I statements, making sure that the boundary that you're setting is done with respect and value for the other party or parties involved. And sometimes that also includes compromise. I think about like a dyad or a couples relationship when somebody may want to do a dozen different things and the other person wants to do like maybe two. So having some compromise with the boundary setting as well. I do love this quote: setting boundaries is a way of caring for myself. It doesn't make me mean, selfish, or uncaring. I care about me too. All right. This just gives us kind of a broad view of the components of self-care. We talked about physical self-care. We talked about spiritual self-care, mental and emotional self-care, how that fits into our overall lifestyle, the structure of our routine, being able to understand the importance of prioritizing relaxation, setting self-care goals, right? Having time in nature, having time with friends and family and loved ones, and having time for ourselves too. That's so important. And then, of course, our support system throughout the different areas of our lives. We can each create a simple, positive, good self-care plan. The first step to that is learning about the importance of self-care. My guess is this is not a new topic for anybody that's listening, but being able to prioritize it and to heighten our awareness in this regard. Helping ourselves determine our current stress level, how self-care is, or lack thereof, is affecting our current stress level, being able to identify those stressors, and to create a plan to incorporate both maybe the current strategies that we're already using, but also new self-care and coping strategies, maybe from that broader lens that we've been talking about. The Mayo Clinic has some really nice resources in this regard, so I just wanted to make sure to share mayoclinic.org with our team. All right, let's look at self-care from a 360-degree view. And you can see the different elements that we've touched on during our time together today, including, right, the sleep hygiene, healthy nutrition, fostering relationships with good boundaries, right, stress management, having work-life balance, having social interactions that are comfortable for us, right, and self-appreciation, making sure that we're valuing ourselves and loving ourselves is so important. And then finally, I wanted to end with this diagram of Dr. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Dr. Maslow developed this hierarchy in kind of a pyramid form to look at the base or foundational needs. And then as individuals, we strive for self-actualization, which is essentially becoming our best selves, being the best version of ourselves that we can be. And what Dr. Maslow talked about was the really foundational levels at physiological, right? So our sleep needs, our food needs, our biological needs. And then right on top of that, safety needs, security, work and occupational resources, having family, being able to access healthcare, being able to have a safe space. Love and belonging comes next. Friendship, family, intimate relationships. And then the next level up is esteem. Having enhanced self-esteem and confidence leads to heightened achievement and respect for others and others' respect for us. And then finally, looking at self-actualization and being able to be the best versions of ourselves, for our loved ones, and for our communities too. I hope that this information has been helpful. It has been a real pleasure for me to be able to speak with you today. I am available if you have any questions or want to follow up, shannon.karl@nova.edu. And I just want to leave with the thought that please, as we're working to be kind to our loved ones and our community members and our fellow humans, that we're also not forgetting to be kind and to believe in ourselves, and of course, to prioritize our self-care. Thank you so much, and namaste.